When you're first learning music, reading, hearing, or really even thinking in terms of different rhythms is going to be one of the hardest parts. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at rhythms in the simplest, easiest way possible. And that is to break some of these more complex rhythms down into smaller pieces and just think about things in terms of short notes and long notes. That's it. Don't even worry about quarters or eighths or sixteenths or any of that stuff yet. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but for now we're just looking at long notes and short notes. So what are our short and long notes? A long note is just going to be 2 of whatever our short note is. That's it. 2 of this equals 1 of this. A lot of rhythms that we use in music can be broken down into this short versus long way of thinking about things. In fact, some of our more complex rhythms are actually just combinations of these short and long notes with maybe some longer notes added in. Let's start out by looking at some really simple examples to demonstrate how this works. Here's our first example. Now, you don't need to be able to read music in order to do what we're talking about today. We're just looking at the rhythms. Notice we have 2 different kinds of notes here. We have the notes that stand by themselves and the notes that are connected to each other. The notes that stand by themselves are our long notes, and the notes that are connected are the short ones. Now, when we're working with counting rhythms, we need something to count. The most common thing to do is hand claps. But if you don't like clapping your hands, you can pat your leg or stomp your foot or bang your head against the wall or just grab your instrument and just play a note in time. Any of this stuff works. Today we'll just use hand claps. And what we're going to do is we're going to clap once for each of the short notes and twice for each of the long notes. Let's try this first example together. This one is going to be long, short, short, long, short, short, long, short, short, long, short, short. So this was a pretty easy example, but as we get into some of these more difficult examples, it's going to be important that you clap along with this in order to stay in time with the rhythm and to really understand how this works. Let's look at this next example. This one is going to mix up some short notes and long notes in a little bit more complicated order. So just remember, on the short notes we clap once, and on the long notes we clap twice. In this example, we don't have any notes that are connected. But see how some of those notes have that little flag? Well, the flag is the same thing as the beam. This is just what our short notes look like when they're by themselves or when they're not connected together. Let's try this one together. Ready? Short, long, short, short, long, short, short, long, short, short, long, short. We'll take a look at some real songs in just a minute, but first let's do just a couple more quick examples. This is similar to the last one, but can be a little bit more tricky for some people. So let's try it together. Short, long, 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 short, short, long, 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 short. Now here's a slightly more complex one, and this is where it actually starts to sound like real music. You've probably heard this rhythm in 1,000 different songs. Short, 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 long, short, long, short, 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 long, short, long. Here's another common rhythm, and this one is super easy. Long, long, short, 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 long, long, short, 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 short. Of course, when we look at all of this on paper in the abstract, it's all just theory. It doesn't become music until you play it on an instrument. So let's talk about how these long and short notes would work on different instruments. For instruments that use a pick like a guitar or a mandolin, most of the time our long notes are going to be down strokes, and our shorter notes are going to be down and up strokes. So let's take a look at a couple of those rhythmic examples we started with to see how this works. Here's what this example would look like on guitar. Long, short, short, long, short, short, long, short, short, long, short, short. And here's another easy one. Long, long, short, 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 long, long, short, 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 short. Sometimes the direction of the pick can change, but the way we count it is still the same. Here's what this one would look like. Short, long, short, short, long, short, short, long, short, short, long, short. For bowed instruments like violin, viola, or cello, the long notes are just going to be held out for twice as long on one bow stroke as our short strokes would be. Here's what this example looks like. So we still count out the long note as twice as long as our short notes. And here's another one. Short, long, short, short, long, short, short, long, short, short, long, short. Okay, that's enough of the exercise examples. Let's take a look at how this works in some real songs. Here's an example of a really common fiddle tune that I love called Whiskey Before Breakfast. We're going to count this exactly the same way we did with those exercises before. The notes that stand by themselves are long notes, and the ones that are connected are short notes. Don't worry about the pitches, we're only looking at the rhythms for this. So let's try reading this line from the top. Ready? Short, 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 long. Short, 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 long. Short, short, long. Short, 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 long. Here's how this would sound on guitar. See that thing at the end there? That's what we call a rest. You count it just like a regular note, only we don't play anything. This particular example is a quarter rest, and it's going to have the same value as our long note. When you get more into counting rhythms and you talk to other people about it and you get a little bit more into reading, you start to run across terms like quarter notes and eighth notes and 16th notes, half notes, all of that kind of stuff. A quarter note is the same thing as just 2 eighth notes. An eighth note is the same thing as 2 16th notes. A half note is the same as 2 quarter notes. Again, everything can be simplified in terms of short notes and long notes. Here are 2 versions of this same song. Notice that they look significantly different, but they still are just made up of 2 different types of notes. We have short notes and long notes. In this top example, the short notes are connected by 1 beam and the long notes stand by themselves. In the bottom example, the short notes are connected by 2 beams and the longer notes are just connected by 1. In the top example, for our long notes and short notes, we would have quarters and eighths, and in the bottom example, our long notes and short notes would be eighths and 16ths. It doesn't matter though. Both of these examples sound exactly the same. It just depends on what speed we start off the song at. Now just looking at a complex lead sheet like this is enough to send some people out of the room screaming. So don't worry too much about all of this other stuff that you see here. In fact, don't even worry about the pitches of these notes. We're just reading the rhythms. Here, let's make this a little simpler. There, that's better. In this example, the short notes are going to be the ones that are filled in, and the long notes are the ones that are left empty. So let's try counting this top line together. Ready? Short, 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 long, short, long. So what about this last note? It's not filled in, so it's going to be a long note, but it has this dot beside it. We won't worry too much about this for right now, but the easy thing to remember is that a long dotted note is 3 short notes instead of 2. Or you could think about it as a long note and a short note crammed together. I'll have another video coming out in the future where we talk more about these dotted rhythms. So if you want to see that, click the subscribe button below to stay tuned for that. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Now let's dive back in. Now let's really put this to the test and see if we can use this thinking of long notes and short notes to read a complex classical piece. Here we have one of my favorite examples, the slow movement of Winter from Vivaldi's Four Seasons. Now already you can see that this looks scary and complicated, but don't worry about it. Let's just look at this top line, and we're only going to be concerned about long notes and short notes. In this particular example, the long notes are going to be the ones that have 1 flag or 1 beam. Okay, are you ready? Let's try this together. Ready, go. Long, short, short, long, short, short, long, 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 short, 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 long, 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 short, short, 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 long, short, short. And that's how this works. A lot of this really doesn't need to be that complicated. Most things that we play can be reduced to just long notes and short notes. Now notice we didn't go all the way through the piece. If we had, we would have run into some dotted quarters and things that make it a little bit more tricky to read. But a lot of things can be broken down into simple things like this. In the future, we'll be going into some of these more complex rhythms. If you have any questions on anything we talked about today, drop a comment down below and hit that subscribe button so you can stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching and practice hard. We'll see you guys next time.